With me right now is my dear friend and editor for 10 years of Cannabis Culture magazine, and now kind of a political Svengali up in his neck of the woods. I'd like to introduce Dana Larsen.
Hey, Mark.
And my great and wonderful editor for 10 years. And but what are you up to these days?
Well, I'm working with the NDP a lot and trying to get the British Columbia NDP on board with what the federal party policy is. Because, you know, Jack Layton was supportive and came to your house and did all this stuff. But the BC NDP, the last we heard from them was when Ujjal Dosanjh was premier, and he was saying that these marijuana smokers got to get locked up and we got to respond, salute the U.S. and Washington State and do what they want us to do. And so as a member, they're having a convention coming up in November, and I'm trying to get this resolution passed in my riding, and hopefully we can make this happen, because we have no governing parties in this country right now, provincially, that support an end to the marijuana law and marijuana laws.
And yet there's so much support for it. Like, one of the things I wanted to point out too, Mayor Larry Campbell of Vancouver spoke at Beyond Prohibition 2004 last year, paid for with seed money. The mayor came and announced his momentous legalization sentiment there. We have had a former mayor, Philip Owen, and the current mayor, Larry Campbell, now appointed to the Canada Senate, favoring legalization. We've heard Jack Layton say he favors legalization, but it's hard to get someone in a power structure.
It seemed Campbell was the first person who was actually in power, who was able to say these things and willing to do so. And I think what happens is it starts off at the lower levels, the cities, and then it moves to the provinces and states, and then finally the federal governments come. That's what happens in the U.S., where cities like San Francisco rebelled against the drug war, started doing needle exchange and allowing medical marijuana. Then a few states have passed a few things, while the federal government is still totally opposed to it all. And I think we're going to see the same thing in Canada, where cities are the first ones to come on board, and then hopefully we'll get some provinces on board, and the federal government will be the last one to follow along behind, I think.
So what's your view of what's happened? How do you see the DEA raids with the Vancouver police on our scene? Well, because our scene's changed, hasn't it? This has put like a certain fear and a certain paranoia into people. People want to know if their mail order is safe, not just from me, but from anybody. Are seed sales safe? Is our scene in Vancouver totally changed now? Not so much by Canadian law, but by American incursions, because
a lot of people are scared, and I think it's going to make a lot of changes. And where Marc Emery goes, so goes the marijuana movement. But you know, as my friend, I'm very worried for you personally and scared about what might happen. But for our movement, as you pointed out before, if they gave you the death penalty, it would be a good thing for our movement, because it would show that, you know, it seems like they have to kick down more and get more serious for people to actually do anything about it. And it's unfortunate that it takes these really extreme things. And people weren't here 10 years ago when you first started getting outraged like they are now and doing something, but instead they wait until, oh, now they're going to send me to the U.S. Well, now I'm going to take a chance to get upset about it. But I think that's what happens. The worse it gets, the more people actually decide to get motivated and do something. Maybe that's what has to happen for it to come to an end.
What's your advice? What should they do? What are people's options? I mean, I've certainly encouraged them to have a rally in their little corner of the world or their large corner of the world.
Well, you know, I think people should join a political party.
That's
and if it's the marijuana party, that's good. But join, whether it's conservative or liberal or NDP, there's a reason for all of them within their philosophy to support legalization and ending the war on drugs. And that's where the real action is. That's where the decisions get made in terms of what policies are going to be, and who we can say, oh, well, Jack Layton hasn't done enough, and, you know, the conservatives are going to get on board. But if we don't belong to them, if we don't call Jack Layton and go, I'm glad you said that, do it again. And if we don't join up and take part and try to do these things, then nothing's going to happen. And it's easy to blame the other parties and those other guys, but they don't know what we know. People, Irwin Cotler doesn't know about marijuana what we know, and those who are watching Pot TV know. And we have to, I think, get more involved in the system and try to get behind things and become the government.
So you're saying join any party. If the party closes, you just get politically active.
Yeah, whatever one you like the rest of their stuff. I mean, so the conservatives should be supporting marijuana because they support small government, individual liberty, libertarianism. The NDP should support it because they support civil liberties and personal freedom and the rights to be the way you are. And the Liberals should support it just because the majority of Canadians do. And they, you know, sort of the party that just does whatever they thinks will get them votes. But I think within any party, and the Bloc Québécois has shown support for legalizing marijuana or being open to that too. So I think any party, just get involved, and it's not something that's right or left or anything else. I mean, within the marijuana party, we have people from all political stripes, libertarians to socialists and every other person coming on board. So it's not a left or right issue, it's beyond that.
And of course, to our American viewers, please get involved in the Democratic Party, the U.S. Marijuana Party. You should give money to the U.S. Marijuana Party, and you should get involved with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party.
Even the Republicans, I mean, the New Mexico senator, what was his name?
Well, New Mexico governor.
Governor, sorry.
Mr. Johnson, Gary
Yeah,
Johnson.
yeah, I mean, there's Republicans that are on board too, certainly, and we think Republicans is all being evil George Bush clones, but some of them are also more libertarian and supportive.
Yeah, Ron Paul, Very progressive libertarian Republican, Ron Paul in Texas, a congressman, great guy, and a woman named Dana Rohrabacher, I think a Republican from New York State. And so there are good people.
Yeah,
Governor Gary Johnson, who I'd love to see run for the presidency.
Yeah, that would be great. So I think it's not just about that. You have to get involved in the political party and
make
try to
our
make
issue their issue. That's the key thing. Push our issue. Not obnoxiously necessary, but one of the things I was suggesting people, we've got to get out and talk to people who aren't like us more. Stop hanging around with pot people. Stop hanging around with your friends who already agree with you. So you can say, isn't that too bad? Go to a country fair. Meet Stephen Harper at a barbecue. Go to church this weekend. Go to a Sikh temple. Wear a subtle little marijuana pin. Talk about issues of prohibition and how they affect you spiritually. And go to places where we don't show up. Send a letter to the Western Standard magazine. Send a letter to the Abbotsford Times, you know, as opposed to the sympathetic media. There's some pretty crazy, wild media out there. Those are the people we need to convince. If they're reading that newspaper daily and they're absorbing this horrible prohibition slop, then it's up to us to break through with keen, cutting reason, sweet reason, and get to those people. We got to, you know, spend less time around the people who already agree with us and do more to convert those who are our enemies or are hostile or are neutral. And that's one thing I will say that this incident has brought out. I have never had so many people. See, the two big things I always wanted to achieve that I could never get done is worldwide unity for our movement, right? Which this seems to have done in a nice way, so that's good. And secondly, getting the people who don't smoke pot to give a damn. How do we get those people? I always thought, I can get the pot people to give a damn, but I can't get the people who don't smoke. Well, now they give a damn. Because they're seeing, wow, they just came in and grabbed a guy. And rather than everybody was, as I said, everybody's complicit from the mayor to the NDP to the Liberal Party to every level of government in what I was doing. Because they thought, well, that's pretty good stuff, spending that money on peaceful democratic change and advocating and being transparent and giving all your money to charity and the income tax department and seemingly being a good guy. And so I think Canadians are rightfully outraged that someone like me, whom I think of as very Canadian, quintessentially Canadian actually, is being swept away for something that Canadians can barely comprehend. Something beyond, the punishment that would be beyond what a murderer would get in Canada.
Well, I've liked seeing editorials saying that I don't think marijuana should be legalized, and I think Marc Emery's kind of a jerk, but we should not send him to a U.S. jail. And that's what we need, because it's got to reach beyond even just the marijuana thing. And these are stark choices. Either we can go American way or we can go this way. And it's not like there's some middle ground. We have to either capitulate with the American war on drugs and send everybody over the border to U.S. jails, or else we have to go our own way. And I think a lot of people who maybe don't like marijuana so much still would rather do it the Canadian way. So I think it's good that it presents this real stark choice to people, which way we get this country's going to go.
Well, and I'm also really pleased on a more local level. Here in Vancouver, we've managed to survive this. I've only been out of jail 2 weeks, but we stabilized Cannabis Culture magazine. Comes out in just a few weeks and printed before the bus. So it will remain to be the next issue after that, where we'll talk about all these things and the implications of them. Pot TV is still operating and will continue to operate, and we have no doubt of that. And the BC Marijuana Party is more vigorous than ever before. And our store is busy upstairs, and the movement has probably had more interest in this issue of prohibition in the last 2 weeks than at any other time in my life as an activist. So, you know, there's a lot of good out there, and we want to keep it up. So, 3 things to tell people. 3 of the most important things you want to tell them right now when we wrap up.
Join a political party. Make sure that September 10th rally is really big in your hometown or wherever you are. Get something happening there.
And tell the media.
And write some letters to the editors, call your politicians. If you go to the Cannabis Culture website, there's plenty of things you can do. And those phone calls, they make a difference. And if you do them once a week, just get out there. Anything you can do, it all helps.
And videotape your rally, whatever city you're in, especially Europe and Australia and New Zealand and the United States. We'd love to have video of your rally here on Pot TV. Get some good speeches going. Take still photographs and send it into Cannabis Culture magazine. Take pictures of your rally so we can post it on board on our website, cannabisculture.com. Please continue to write letters to your local media and newspaper. Look forward to seeing me on 60 Minutes sometime in September. Talk it up for me on my behalf and that of Michelle Rainey, Renee Bourget, and Greg Williams. Please do